Damien Hirst is here. Vanity Fair magazine has said he just may well be the most famous artist in the world. His controversial art frequently addresses matters of life and death. Some of his work, for instance, includes preserving cows and sharks in formaldehyde. Next month, the man the press has dubbed the bad boy of the British art world will publish a new book. I am pleased to welcome Damien Hirst to this show for the first time. There's so much controversy, interesting controversy, about what you do.
Yeah, I mean, I think, a lot of people kind of talk about my work and say it's sensational or something, which is, but in a kind of critical way, which I always think sensational is really a good word. But I think the world's complicated today, and we're constantly barraged by images and ideas. So I don't really see it as a negative thing. I mean, I think the world's complicated. So as an artist, you're going to present it in a complicated way. And in a controversial way.
Now, an English friend of mine was telling me this story, which he said that you took with a great deal of good nature and humor, that you had an exhibition and that the cleaning people came in.
Oh, yeah.
Either the night before it was supposed to start or at some point.
Threw it away.
And threw it away.
Yeah,
they took your art and threw it away thinking it was garbage.
I think the cleaner said it didn't look much like art to me. Yeah, I think he's given up being a cleaner now, and he's got a job as an art. Yeah, he's an art critic. Yeah. No, I quite like all that. I mean, I like that confusion where you're not sure where the art is, and it makes it kind of fresh. I mean, I think it can get in the present day.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. I mean, Morley Safer, my colleague at 60 Minutes, has done a piece about you as well.
Oh, right, I haven't seen that.
Yeah. But, I mean, how do we define art in the age of Damien Hirst?
I don't know. I mean, I think there are three dumb words in life, and they're used to connect people to other people, and they're like art, God, and love. Yes. And it's like, it's like once you say something's art, it's like, I mean...
art, God, and love, exactly.
But people say, but is it art? And it's like, and it's art if you say it's art. But I don't know. I mean, there's a visual language that exists. I always have a really funny idea of, like, if you go in the supermarket and you put a jar of Vaseline and a cucumber in somebody else's trolley and follow them to checkout and watch what happens, there's all those, there's within objects, the visual objects, there's all these other references and ideas.
Have you done that?
I've done it, yeah. But I think I do that. That's what you do in the work, which is what can cause the controversy, because you just get two objects that on their own don't mean anything and put them together, and you can create, all hell breaks loose.
You were brought up by a single mother, yes?
Yeah.
I mean, what brought you to art?
I don't know. I mean, I always drew. I mean, I was always making birthday presents and that kind of thing.
You were always creating birthday presents rather than buying them.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
out of economic necessity, probably.
Yeah, I mean, well, that, but not necessarily. I mean, I always just kind of thought like that. I mean, my mother, when I was little, I remember used to draw, and I used to say, when I filled the paper, she'd always stick a piece of paper on the end, and they used to get huge, and you kind of realise that things can get kind of infinite like that. But I think, I mean, it's just I communicate better that way. I mean, it's a visual language, and I think it exists in the same way as any other language. If
you were writing a retrospective of your work so far...
Wow. Sure, yeah.
Well, the question is, what would it say? I mean, what would be the sort of...
I don't know. I mean, I've done a lot of titles. I mean, I did a piece called something... Sometimes I avoid people, or... No, I mean, a better idea would be... Nothing is a problem for me. I mean, I like things like that. That's you kind of say something and deny it at the same time. But just, I mean, I think you just want to you just want to set up triggers that create thought. Really, I mean, it's like it's in a way it's kind of like some sort of poetry.
But we're coming at something here, and Richard Serra, a sculptor you admire.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, what he talks about is art is a language to make people think about things in a fresh way.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what it is.
It's like if you drive down the street every day, and you see it, it's like if a tree falls down, it suddenly changes everything. And it's just the same thing put, 90 degrees in a different direction, and it's suddenly much bigger, and you've got to drive around it. And, I think art's really important. I mean, they use art in advertising to sell us things, to communicate ideas, in politics, everywhere. I mean, there's a very strong visual language that exists that's used to manipulate people in all kinds of ways.
Manipulate is a word that you would find positive and attractive.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think manipulate. I mean, you manipulate paint in a painting.
Right.
But I think
we use painting to manipulate sensory impressions.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big responsibility being an artist, but it's exciting.
What's the responsibility?
Well, I mean, you could. If like a lot of people worry about artists doing it for the money or something, but I think. Money is just an element in some sort of composition, and I don't think you can be afraid of anything. I don't think you can be afraid of money. I think you've got to, I mean, art's about life, and the art world's about money, and that, if art's about life, there isn't really anything else. So, but I think you could, I don't know, if you start if you start selling things to people for the wrong reasons, or I mean, if you just start trying to sell something that you don't believe in, then, you know, I think that's the responsibility of constantly making sure you're selling something that you believe as an artist.
And you believe what? In what?
I don't know. I mean, I believe there's, you know, an infinite number of ways to get to the same point. I mean, if you look at money, for instance, it's like, you know, you look at a £20 note, it's like, you know it's a piece of paper and it's not worth £20, and you know it's using all artistic ideas, and you think, well, you know, art is powerful because, you know, they convince the masses that a piece of paper is worth something using, you know, ink and paper and, you know, three-dimensional images and the illusion of three dimensions, like, you know, painting. So, I mean, it's, yeah, I mean, just that 1 + 1 can equal 3. I think that's the main sort of idea that I'm interested in.
But in terms of, there's no easy definition to describe you as an artist, sculptor, painter. What is it?
I think it's you know, it's everything. I mean, I always did things in the middle. It's like, I mean, I think Mayer Weissman, an artist, said the greatest idea in the 20th century was collage. And I think that's kind of more of what I do. Is like, you just, you know, it's like if you give me a blank canvas, I don't know what the hell to do. You know, the void of it is really frightening. But whereas if you give me already organised elements to arrange, like in a sculpture, you know, you can put things. You know, there's a kind of harmony, like in any kind of thing.
You won the Turner Prize once.
Sure, yeah. I lost it once as well. I was nominated twice.
This year, the Turner Prize was won by what?
By I've forgotten his name, Martin Creed.
Which showed what?
It was, I think a lot of people call it say it was an empty room,
right.
But it was,
White room.
I think it had a piece of blue tack in the room.
And what did you think of that? I mean,
well, I didn't actually see the show, but I think, you know, I mean, a lot of people, I mean, especially in England, there's you know, I mean, in America at least, people go to a kind of art school and buy something to put on the wall, and it's, you know, I mean, still today, if you buy a painting from a student, you know, you can be guaranteed no one in the world's got one quite like the one that you've got.
Yeah, exactly.
But still people want, you know, the crying boys and things like that. But I think, you know, I mean, Malevich in, I don't know, in 1917 painted a black square on a white ground, and the world went nuts and said that's not art. But I think, you know, I mean,
and so it's not a new idea. It's not a new question for sure.
I mean, it's all happened before for me, and I'm always amazed when people get, you know, shots when people go, oh my God, he's just done that, you know.
Yeah, it's just a nut.
Yeah,
and that's not art. That's just.
But I didn't see it. But you know, it wasn't. I think he had a piece of blue tack, and you know, I mean, conceptual art was around in the '60s, so. I mean, I've always loved art, and I've never really. I don't know why, because I come from a background that wasn't really into art. But I always that kind of.
It wasn't necessarily.
It's about enjoying yourself. I mean, I go in a gallery and enjoy myself, and I'm not really intimidated by it. And I've always done that.
Even when you were a kid.
Yeah, I mean, I just went in there and
just
went, wow, yeah. I just went, wow, this is great. I mean, if you look at Ellsworth Kelly's paintings, I used to go in there and you think, my God, you know, this is like a sunny day, and I'm inside a room. When
would you do that? When you were like 10, or?
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you look at it in the Leeds, yeah, 10 if I was in the Leeds art gallery. But people would go, that's not art, that's true. You know, people somehow, people put up a wall with art for some reason.
Did you find, I mean, how did you come to do what you do? Whether it's the cows or the shark in the water, I mean, was there some moment in which you said, I've got to find an expression that I want to do to sort of make people rethink?
I think what I wanted to do is, it was all about sort of some kind of belief. And I looked at, and I looked at, I wanted to do a shark, but I wanted to do a shark. And I thought about doing a painting of a shark or a big light box of a shark, and I wanted it to kind of frighten you like a shark. I mean, basically, probably after seeing Jaws or something like that. Yeah. But that idea of a sort of a fear of an unwarranted fear, or I don't know, something maybe located around death or something. But I kept thinking, it's got to be frightening, and a painting's not good enough. And I wanted to make it more real. And then in the end, I just opted for using a real one. And then once you put it into a gallery, it's like if you walk up to it and look into it, you just suddenly. It's big enough to eat you, and you suddenly get that real physical fear, which takes it onto another level. And then, so I found myself like going after that, really.
Do you think of yourself, as you have said before, of being a traditional artist? Yeah,
I mean, I think so. I mean, I think when you look at it, I mean, a funny thing happened once when I did a sheep in formaldehyde, and it got vandalised. Somebody poured ink in it. Yeah. Came into the gallery, and it was black, and we had to go to court, and I ended up having to go to court, and I was stood up in court. And I had to like swear on the Bible and everything. And then the guy comes up to me and says, Mr. Hurst, can you define conceptual art? Which is the weirdest thing to be in court, having to define conceptual art. So I said, well, it's when the art itself is actually located in the mind of the viewer and not in the object itself. Really trying not to go. And then he said, how would you describe your art? And I said, traditional. It really blew me away. But you know, I mean, I think sheep and sharks and cows, and you know, there's a lot of. Yeah. Religious connotations. I mean, it looks different, but I think if you look deeply, it's pretty traditional. What did you do?
There was an exhibition, I think it was at the British Museum, I mean, at the Brooklyn Museum.
Oh, yeah, when Giuliani kicked off.
Sensation was the...
Yeah, I mean, that was... I mean,
what
all
did
that
you do that got you in trouble there?
I forget, what was it? No, it was the... I think it was mainly the other guys, I think, but there was one thing I didn't... I think it was dead animals.
And that's right.
Really?
Something about...
Yeah, I mean, I think I got picked on.
And stuff.
Yeah. But I think we put a few zeros on the prices after he did all that. I think he did us a favour, really.
So all of a sudden...
But the funny thing was, it was all like 10 years old. You
Yeah,
know, all the work in there was like 10, 8 years old.
Yeah. Is it fair to say, then, that when you... all this controversy, if you can shock people, and critics will write about how shocking this is, then all of a sudden the art becomes much more valuable. That's an idea you understand.
I think you have to get people listening to you before you can change their minds, and I think we live in a world like that. I mean, you look at any movie, you know, and it's like guns and shotguns and sex and images, and I think it's just going on everywhere. It's, you know, it's very difficult today to be heard. And as an artist, you know, you don't want to be like Van Gogh and sit in a garret, cut your ear off. You really, you know, you want to get people's attention. You want to make people think about the world, you know. And I think, you know, through doing that, without having anything to sell them except art as an idea, I think it's a good way to advance the world, make it move forward in some way.
It's worked for you.
It's worked for me. I mean, I think, you know, I mean, all children draw, and for some reason, most of them stop.
Theories, models, methods, approaches, assumptions, results, and findings. That's the most recent New York show 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was that show?
I think it was just about, I mean, the whole show for me was about the kind of conflicts between art and science, or science as a, you know, because I once did a medicine cabinet where I was always amazed that people totally believe in medicine and don't believe in art without questioning either. And, you know, you go to the doctor and he gives you a little pill like that, and then you look at it and there's a list of side effects as long as your arm, you know, that say, you know, you can have sudden death as a side effect, and you go in there and the doctor says, oh, you've got a headache, you need 2 of these. You say thank you very much, and you totally believe in it. Whereas, you know, in art, it doesn't seem to have that. And there doesn't seem to be a lot of difference with it on that level. So it's just a playful way of, you know, making that connection, really.
Well, you have always, I mean, you've always been interested in science, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. As a, you know, as a solution to problems, you know, that kind of logic. Like, you know, I always remember seeing those photographs of the moon from space when you get the moon, and they put a grid over it. And it looks like they really understand it, but you know the landscape is an unknowable landscape, and if you just put a grid on it, it's not really doing that much.
Do you have artistic heroes?
Yeah, I mean anybody. I mean, you know, I mean I really love Bruce Nauman. Or I mean,
you do love
present
Bruce
day.
Nauman. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
because
it's just, I mean, just so much fun. I mean, it just really makes you question yourself. It always, you know, it creeps up behind. I always had an idea of like a great artwork where you go into a gallery and there's like a plinth with a big red button on it. It says "Do not touch," and if you touch it, a boxing glove comes out and smashes you in the face. And I think a lot of Bruce Nauman's work does that.
It smashes you in the face.
Yeah, and it's your own fault. You know, you shouldn't touch. Yeah. He told you, we warned you.
Yeah. Do you like this bad boy reputation? Or is that a reputation that is sort of was but is no longer?
I mean,
Because you're
I don't really
with 2 kids.
I don't really mind. I mean, the thing is, whenever you know, I mean, it's kind of a losing battle because as an artist, you kind of make objects which have definitely meant for, you know, a one-on-one relationship. You just kind of picture one viewer having a relationship with something you make. So you don't really...
Wait, say that again.
You make an object for somebody to walk into a gallery and experience one-on-one.
And you're thinking of just one person experiencing this.
Yeah, just one-on-one. Yeah, I mean, that's just
in a way,
it's really old-fashioned. So once it gets caught up in a media machine, then you get a bad boy reputation. But I think I mean, mostly I get people who actually see the work say, "Hey, I saw it. It's pretty good, really."
Yeah, really.
You know, a lot of people.
It wasn't what I expected from reading about it.
A lot of people have opinions about what you do, and it's by reading about it. And you'd never do that. You know, you never. People come up to me and go, "Yo, work's rubbish," and you go, "What do you mean?" They go, "I read it." And they, you know, they never do that with a book. You know, you read it yourself. You go, I can always divide people into people who've seen it and people who haven't, and they all have opinions and they all say it's terrible.
I know your work is rubbish because I read it was rubbish.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and you say, "Well, have you seen it?"
Yeah,
you say, "No, but I read it."
Yeah,
I read
exactly.
It.
Yeah, I prefer the cleaner throwing it away. I think that says more about it. Absolutely.
At least that was an honest reaction, wasn't it? This is garbage and not work.
Yeah.
You know, it's not art. Yeah. Where are you in some... I hate the question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Are you on some journey somewhere? I mean, in other words, is there some evolution you can see taking place within your own presentations?
I think all art, if it's, I mean, in a way you make art for people who haven't been born yet on some level. If it's like, you know, it doesn't matter how you schmooze with all the kind of curators of all the museums and how many dinners and how, you know, if once they die and somebody else gets in there, if it's rubbish, they're going to throw it away, do you know what I mean? It's not going to be around in 200 years' time. So I think, you
then if it is, then we know it's good.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, I mean, you know, all the good art, if you look back, is you know, it's the map of a man's life. So you can't really get too deeply in there, but you hope, you know, you just want to grasp
all
the
the good art is a map of a man's life. Tell me
I
what
think
that
so,
means,
or a woman's life. I mean,
Okay.
I think, you know, it's about, you know, I mean, all the great art that I look at is like, you know, when you look at, you know, Warhol going from, you know, from all that kind of Jasper Johns targets into that kind of pop stuff, you know, it's just insane. But then you can see what that was doing culturally at the same time in the world, and you look, and, you know, and you kind of go, well, you know, like how important success and fame and how shallow and how deep it all was. You know, you can imagine a little bit more of what it was like to be there than you can get. You know, you can't really get that feeling that you get from art of what it was like around the time that it was created.
Would you travel, say, to the Netherlands to see there's a new Van Gogh and Gauguin exhibition that came over from Chicago, the Art Institute in Chicago?
Yeah, I mean, I would do if
I mean, would you do that if you just happen to be in Amsterdam, or do you care so passionately about
I'd probably
art?
do it if it was a Bruce Nauman exhibition or something. But I don't know. I mean, I keep thinking,
Why Bruce Nauman again? I mean, that you.
Well, something like I don't know.
What is it? I mean, he's going to be thrilled. He obviously knows, but.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I took a load of friends who aren't into art from like the north of England to a show in the show that they had at the Hayward.
Yeah.
Like one night when we'd stayed up all night and we were in the right state. And I said, now's the time you should go. We don't want to do that. And they went and they had a great time, you know. And it's like to go in like that and just laugh, you know, and have fun. I mean, I remember there's that room where there's a light bulb in it, and you go in there and it's a tiny little room, and there's just a little voice saying, it's a very dim light. And there's a voice going, "Get out of this room. Get out of my mind. Get out of my head." And all you can do is get out of the room, and you just think, what the hell's that all about? But you can't, you know.
You can't get it out of your head.
Yeah, it sets off a trigger in your mind.
Yeah.
And you just, you know, once you ask, and in a way it doesn't, it sort of opens everything up. Once you're asking the questions of why, then, you know, it's a different world you're left with.
Yeah. Your company's name is Science.
Mm-hmm.
Your restaurant's name is Pharmacy.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know, I mean, I've always liked that. It's again that same connection I was saying about art. I mean, pharmacy is quite strange because it's you wouldn't expect it to be a good place to eat or to be conducive to eating, but it actually really works. So I just, you know, as well, a lot of the things that I try and, you know, to make artworks. I mean, in England, if you phone up and you say, "Hi, I want to make a rainbow in a gallery, in a room," they go, "Why? What do you want it for?" And once you say it's art, it's like they almost don't even want to help you. So if you've got if you've got a company called Science, it's like they go, "Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense."
That'll be fine.
So you can order anything.
So you say, "I'm from Science."
Yeah. And
but if you call up and say, "By the way, I'm Damien Hirst, and I'd like to take over your second floor," they'll say, "Not on my life."
Yeah, a lot of people say. I mean, I have a lot of people say. You say, "I want to do something," and they say, "Oh, you can't afford it." And you go, "What?" You know, you say, "I want to make a piece of resin this big," and you know, they go, "Oh, it can't be done. What do you want it for?" So, in a way, it's a good thing to hide behind.
Science is.
Yeah.
So if you call up and say, "I'm from Science and I want to make this," they say,
"Yeah.
Oh, give it a try."
Yeah.
Where does gruesome play a role for you?
I don't know. I mean, I think, you know, as a society on the whole, we sweep death under the carpet. You know, I mean, it's like, I mean, you know, death's probably the most, you know, definite thing in our lives, and it's like, but we don't seem to, you know, I seem to have arrived on the scene where we're not in a situation to kind of deal with it. We don't really kind of look at it.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, even, you know, when you're at school, it's like, you know, they don't teach, they don't go, right, oh, and by the way, you're going to die. You know, it's like they teach you all these things at school. They don't teach you, you know, about, you know, relationships. They say, oh, you might have children, and they should, you know, they should teach you about that. And it seems like all these big issues don't really come into it. So I think, in a way, if you can kind of present that, you know, people don't want to. I mean, I always said, like with the carcass, if you take away the smell, it's actually quite beautiful. And it's like to be able to present people with it in some way like that. I mean, I think you can hopefully confront something inside yourself. I don't know if it's that gruesome. I mean, I think in the works there's actually beauty. I mean, as an idea it's gruesome, but I think in all the things that I do, there's a kind of beauty which draws you in, which you don't expect.
What's the beauty in what you're working on now? But
I just think there's a kind of calm tragedy to it. I mean, there's fish swimming in it. It's like, you know, it's a captured moment. You know, it's like, you know, there's that sort of horror, but it's very quiet and calm.
Do you create art on commission?
I have done. I did the Shark on commission, but I kind of try and avoid it because you end up, a lot of the people who buy art are kind of want to be artists themselves, so they start.
They want to do what?
They want to be artists themselves in some way, so they start kind of like pushing it around and start. You know, it's like you're selling it before you start, so it becomes theirs to a certain extent, which makes it quite difficult.
They've commissioned it, so it's really theirs.
Yeah, you know, they go, well, I'd like the head up like this. And you, well, I guess it's yours. Yeah, can't we have 2 cows in there, please, and a dead dog? I thought about doing pets in formaldehyde. I thought that would be a good way.
It's true, though. It is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's embarrassingly true that people who do
But
that,
if it's a big project,
they want to somehow think,
yeah,
you know,
yeah, could have a pink one to go.
yeah,
in my
or where
curtains.
is our piece?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you preoccupied with death?
I think I'm preoccupied with life. I mean, a lot of people say that, but I think death's a good way to kind of. I mean, I don't think death exists in life in a way. It's like it's like life is like white and trying to understand black with only having white. It's like if you just had white and somebody tried to explain black to you and said it's the opposite with no conception. I mean, I think it's like half the story. So I think it's more of a journey.
Yeah. What do you wish as an artist you had? I mean, is there any kind of experience or education or
I don't know. I mean, I've always had a desire to be a painter. I mean, I think a painter. The idea of a painter is really desirable to me, but I've never really done that. I think because with a painter, it's like you've got a flat piece of paper, and it's like it's got its own bullshit built into it. It's like the illusion of you've got a two-dimensional surface, and before you start, you just say, right, I'm going to treat this as a three-dimensional space. So it's like the kind of lie, or the illusion is built into it straight off. So that then the idea of a painter, like Turner strapped to the mast kind of an idea is great.
So you considered it and decided not?
No, I tried it and I couldn't do it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You tried it and you didn't have
just the possibilities.
Nothing to say, or you couldn't say?
I couldn't decide what to say with the possibilities of, I'd sit there and go, what the hell am I going to do? It's like you could do anything, and then I'd start and change my mind. And so that's when the kind of collage comes in. So I'd go, I make a lot of decisions by calling people up and saying, hey, and they go, well, you can only have it this big. I go, right, I'll take it. So it's just a lot, a lot of decision making is taken out of it.
You've got 2 books out. Or do you have 2 books out? Anyway, somebody sent me 2 books of yours today, and before I could read them, I had to head out. So
right, yeah.
What are they?
It's a book of interviews. One of them is called On
Interviews
the Way to
with
Work.
You?
Yes, about 10 years of interviews that I did with the same guy over 10 years.
Oh, I see. So in a sense, it's a reflection of your life and career.
Yeah, so far. It's quite funny. I mean, it starts off when I'm really optimistic and saying, I love this, and going to openings, you can get drunk for free, and you don't have to mess your own house up. And by the end of it, I'm going to hate everyone. It's horrible.
And what's the other one?
The other one's just there's a book from the show that I did with Larry, which is more of a book than a catalogue.
This is the goes in your story. Was this the one, the theories, models, methods, and?
Yeah. And then I think you got sent the big one, which is just a book I did a while ago, which was everything up to that date.
And what's the title of the exhibition that Gagosian is doing in the spring?
We're not doing one. It's just for the book. It's the launch of.
Oh, just the book.
On the Way to Work, yeah.
So, thank you.
You're welcome.
Pleasure to meet you. We'll convene again in New York City.
Great.
All right.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure.